In the Black Girls of Queen, I wanted to give a shout out to Ring IQ Boxing, and remember to tune in to the motherfucking relay.
Welcome to the motherfucking relay. We're covering today's top boxing news. Ow!
Yesterday I spoke with Cecilia Brækhus. She said that she wanted to make the fight with you, but she felt the offer from Showtime was not good enough. So
that is all lies, and that's the reason why I blocked her, because I'm not gonna let her use my name to build fame for herself, because she's not really known in the U.S. And it was like she kept saying my name, so of course me and my team wanted to have like some kind of negotiation, and they didn't even want to have a real conversation because Showtime said that they would make us main event on Showtime pay-per-view if me and her was to fight. And Tom Laughlin and her didn't even want to have a conversation. But to the public, she'll say, oh no, that never happened. She didn't want to have a conversation. She could have made $1 million for one purse, and she turned it down.
There's a lot to be reconciled when it comes to Claressa Shields' latest rant in regards to Cecilia Braekhus and why the fight between them isn't going to happen. You know, Claressa's claiming that Cecilia denied receiving an offer from Showtime to make the fight between them, but that's not true. Cecilia Braekhus is not denying having received an offer from Showtime.
And when it comes to the fight, it was never about the weight. It was never about the weight, the venue, or anything. It was very easy. I got a better offer from DAZN and took it. You know, she can huff and puff all she wants on Twitter, but if she wants this fight, she needs to go back to her bosses. She needs to go back to Showtime, and that's where it's going to happen.
Here, quite plainly, Cecilia Braekhus can be seen and heard acknowledging that Showtime made an offer to see the fight get made. It's just that it wasn't a substantial offer, at least not as substantial as Matchroom's offer to Cecilia to see her fight Katie Taylor, as opposed to Claressa Shields, provided that Katie Taylor makes it past Amanda Serrano. But I reiterate, Cecilia Braekhus isn't denying that Showtime made her an offer. She's acknowledging that an offer was made. She's just saying that Matchroom's offer was better.
But to the public, she'll say, oh no, that never happened.
It was very easy. I got a better offer from DAZN and took it. You know, she can huff and puff all she wants on Twitter, but if she wants this fight, she needs to go back to her bosses. She needs to go back to Showtime, and that's where it's going to happen.
That's why I blocked her. I'm not going to let her use my name to build fame for herself, because she's not really known in the U.S. And it was like she kept saying my name.
This is a case of cognitive dissonance, folks. Cognitive dissonance on the part of Claressa Shields. And what is cognitive dissonance? By definition, the state of having inconsistent thoughts, beliefs, or attitudes, especially as relating to behavioral decisions and attitude changes. Claressa Shields' attitude towards the situation is that Cecilia Braekhus was clout chasing her by name dropping her. But anyone who's been keeping up with the story between them would know that Cecilia Braekhus isn't one for calling people out or name dropping anyone. As this stage of her career, she's got very little to prove, and it's Claressa herself that does all of the calling out, whether it's calling out a 42-year-old Layla Ali or a 37 going on 38-year-old welterweight. In Cecilia Braekhus, it's Claressa that does all the name dropping. It's Claressa that does all of the calling out, all of the shit talking, as that's what she has become associated with, and she doesn't make any bones about it. She knows what she's doing. I want to preface everything I'm about to say with this. I'm not against Claressa Shields being the young, brash fighter that's willing to take on all comers. I actually like that about her. But when I see what she's saying about Cecilia, it really is a case of cognitive dissonance. Inconsistencies in Claressa's beliefs and her attitudes in retrospect with what's actually going on.
Yeah.
You're saying about Cecilia is inconsistent with reality. Cecilia's not denying that she received an offer. She's saying that the offer she received was not substantial enough to make her walk away from what Matchroom had on the table for her. And until Claressa can address that part of the story, that Matchroom offered her more money than you guys did.
All right.
Until you can address that, you're pissing in the wind and it's getting on your leg, because you're not going to get people to turn against Cecilia by playing this game, by playing this blame game, this denial game. Because that's what Claressa seems like she's in. She seems like she's in denial. That you're not actually addressing what Cecilia's saying. Cecilia's saying that they offered her more money. So what you need to do is go back to your people at Salita Promotions, your people over there at Showtime, and you need to talk to them so that they can up the ante, because up until you do, she's not going to bend over for you.
Sorry.
It's that fucking simple. Who walks away from more money for less money? I mean, this is prize fighting after all, isn't it?
Last I checked.
You know, a lot of people have misconceptions as far as who's who here, who's holding all the cards, who's the real marquee fighter, because Clarissa might be, somewhat popular in small circles in America, but overall, the bigger marquee fighter here really is Cecilia Braekhus. She's played to much bigger crowds than Clarissa has, by far. I mean, when has Clarissa ever fought in front of 10,000 people?
Never.
Has Clarissa Shields ever been on a pay-per-view anywhere on the planet?
No, never.
Of course, Cecilia has. Cecilia has sold quite a few domestic pay-per-views and done very good numbers. Some instances, record-breaking numbers in her own backyard in Norway, and these are the facts. I remember when both Clarissa and Cecilia fought on the same card. This was before HBO walked away from boxing. This was in late 2018. I remember hearing rumblings that, Cecilia Braekhus was in essence taking a pay cut, deciding to come over here to the United States, and instead of just staying in her own backyard in Norway. And on that card that aired on HBO, when you looked at the reported purses, Cecilia Braekhus, even then, was making 2 times the amount of money that Clarissa was. Roughly 2 times the amount. Clarissa Shields was set to make $125,000 for fighting Femke Hermans, whereas Cecilia was set to make a cool $200,000 fighting Alexandria Lopez. It's basically saying that this fighter came from all the way over there in Norway, here stateside, and off the bat, was earning more money than Clarissa.
And that's why I blocked her. I'm not going to let her use my name to build fame for herself, because she's not really known in the U.S.
First of all, she blocked me a long time ago. So so all the accusations she's coming on Twitter, I don't have, I cannot defend myself against them, or I just know that, I just hearing from everyone that she's talking, saying some very bad stuff about me.
And that's why I blocked her. I'm not going to let her use my name to build fame for herself, because she's not really known in the U.S.
It's funny that Clarissa keeps saying that Cecilia's not known here, and there is some truth to that, there is, but better still. A fighter who's not known here came here and got a bigger purse than you did on the same card that you were on. A fighter who's not known here is the fighter who you've been talking about consecutively for days and weeks and months. I mean, who's Clarissa trying to kid here? If anybody's got anybody's name in their mouth, it's Clarissa having Cecilia Braekhus' name in her mouth, along with the names of several other people who are out there. She is the young, brash fighter who likes to call people out. And when Cecilia Braekhus says that Clarissa Shields blocked her, Clarissa Shields herself already admitted to that. And Clarissa Shields' reason for having blocked Cecilia whilst Clarissa badmouths her is because Cecilia's using her name?
Huh?
What?
Yeah.
Who does she expect to believe that shit?
I don't know.
Look, this is an ego thing. That's what this is for Clarissa. This is an ego thing, and she is on an ego trip that in most every single situation she's been in as a professional boxer, she got to have everything her way, even with Christina Hammer, which was her biggest fight to date. Small potatoes compared to the kind of numbers that Cecilia's put up in the past. It's the truth. Better still, this is an ego thing. Clarissa's used to having things her way, and if she can't have things her way, she will seek comfort, refuge, and denial. She'll block Cecilia and badmouth her and try to turn people against her. But, you can block out the sun with your index finger from where you're standing, and maybe you won't see it. But the rest of us, they're standing around, we see it just fine. And what it looks like is that, you can't handle that she got offered more money to fight somebody else, and that was more important than you. That maybe you can have your way with a Habazin, who Cecilia beat years ago, 2014 I believe it was. Maybe you can have your way with a Habazin, and a Nikki Adler, and a Christina Hammer, and, maybe even a DeCare. I don't know what the split was for that fight, but maybe you can have your way with those fighters. But you can't have your way with this fighter, and that's what's bothering you, and that's why you're in denial about it, and that's why you're not actually addressing what Cecilia's saying. Cecilia's not denying that you guys made her an offer. She's saying the offer you made was small potatoes. So get your money up. You can see the difference in the demeanor of the fighters, how both the fighters are handling the situation, you know. Clarissa's very much the impetuous youth. Brash has a lot to say, you know, lots of barbs. Whereas Cecilia's more poised, more composed, as she is the more experienced professional. She doesn't need to get up in arms about anything Clarissa's saying. She just needs to address it, and that's what she has adequately done. She has let everyone know that, yeah, they made an offer. It was just kind of light, you know. Matchroom offered me more money, so I took it. Make of that what you will. In other news, WBA light heavyweight champion Dmitry Bivol targets Canelo. I know I can beat him. I'll go to 168. He was quoted as saying, "I've said now for over a year that I'm ready, willing and able to move down to super middleweight and fight Canelo. I have been training throughout the COVID-19 crisis and have watched on social media that Canelo has as well. I know that my team and Golden Boy Promotions have discussed this option and we are willing to make the fight on very reasonable financial terms. My team understands, unlike many other opponents, my goal is not the payday, but to face the best in boxing today. I know I can beat him, and the real reward will come after this fight. I have heard that the Zone and all the other parties involved are supportive of this fight, but whenever the name is brought up to Canelo, he says he would never do it. However, I don't know how much truth there is to this. It would be great to know if he is ready to fight other top champions in his division that are on the same network and are ready to make a simple and appropriate deal, as there are not that many of them. I strongly believe that Dmitry Bivol at super middleweight is the toughest test for Canelo," continued Andrei Ryabinski, head of World Boxing. Dmitry wants to fight the best, and Canelo is all the way at the top of that list right now. This fight will have to happen sooner or later. The fans want to see a fight where Canelo will really be tested. Andrei Ryabinski isn't wrong here. He's not. No. That is the kind of fight that boxing fans, emphasis on boxing fans, that is the kind of fight that a true boxing fan wants to see Canelo Alvarez in. The kind of fight that doesn't necessarily have an angle. The kind of fight where it doesn't seem like a foregone conclusion that Canelo Alvarez wins the fight. That's the kind of fight that a true blue boxing fan wants to see. But in that way, that's the kind of fight that you should expect to see the lead. Look, ladies and gentlemen, whether you guys like it or not, there's always an angle, and there are those out there in the sport of boxing that are professional anglers. They pick fights that are just intriguing enough to draw an audience, but not so intriguing that certain danger, certain defeat awaits their fighter. In this situation, Canelo Alvarez. I can't tell you that I've ever seriously entertained the notion of a Canelo Alvarez versus Dmitry Bivol fight because I view the fight as being highly unlikely to happen. And Dmitry Bivol is just one of several fighters hoping to win the sweepstakes and land that Canelo Alvarez fight. In truth, he's probably the least likely to get it, behind Demetrius Andrade. I mean, at one point, Canelo Alvarez had 3 of the 4 major titles in the middleweight division. He was only 1 belt away from becoming the next undisputed middleweight champion. And Canelo Alvarez chose to go the other way. He chose to go somewhere else to fight someone else with that kind of a legacy-defining fight at his feet. He literally went against his own word, as it was Canelo Alvarez himself who stated that he meant to unify the entire division. This is what anyone from 160 to 175 is dealing with, making chasing a Canelo fight foolhardy.
Yeah.
It's folly.
Yeah.
Let me tell you something. I don't want to hear anything about Dmitry Bivol chasing around Canelo Alvarez down there to 168. I don't want to hear that. I don't want to hear another guy telling me that he's sitting on his hands waiting for Canelo to pick up the phone. Least of all from Dmitry Bivol, when there's a perfectly good fight there at 175. And that's the fight with Artur Beterbiev. Okay, that's what I want to see. That's what I want to hear about. If Dmitry Bivol so decides to abdicate his WBA title at 175, move down to 168, he will be just one of 3 options for Canelo Alvarez at that weight. There's Callum Smith, there's Billy Joe Saunders, and Bivol, he'd make 3. But there's no guarantees that either one of those 3 guys gets the fight. I mean, look at it right now. You know, it was all but a done deal. It was all but a foregone conclusion that Canelo Alvarez was going to fight Billy Joe Saunders in his very next fight. And we see what effect the COVID pandemic has had to where now the conversation has gone from Canelo Alvarez fighting Billy Joe Saunders for his WBO title to potentially skipping that pit stop at 168 and going straight down to 160 for a Golovkin rubber match, as this COVID pandemic has put everything on hold, and that is affecting the timeline in which these fights were supposed to happen. The Saunders fight was intended to be a prelude, a pit stop as Canelo descends back to the middleweight division, but with everything being put on hold, this actually affords Canelo Alvarez the necessary time to cut down to middleweight without having to fight Billy Joe Saunders. This accents the kind of uncertainty that most any and every fighter faces when he so decides to prioritize a Canelo Alvarez fight as opposed to everything else that's out there. And what's out there for Bivol is a unification match, a long-anticipated unification match with the now unified champion, Artur Beterbiev. I realize that Bivol won't get the money for a Beterbiev that he would get for a Canelo, but guess what? You can't count your chickens before they're hatched. There's no guarantee that if you go to 168 pounds, you're going to get a Canelo fight. I'll tell you what you do. In all likelihood, Canelo Alvarez is going to fight Gennady Golovkin as soon as boxing resumes. That's one way it could happen. Maybe it happens at 160, maybe it happens at a catchweight between 160 and 165, or maybe it happens at the full super middleweight limit of 168. I could see the fight happening at any of those prescribed weights. While that's going on, if Dmitry Bivol so decides to move down to super middleweight, he should take care of what competition is already there. He should pursue a Saunders fight. He should pursue a Smith fight. He should take care of anyone and everyone who would be an option for Canelo Alvarez, provided he returns to the weight class and campaigns there moving forward. Bivol should structure the environment around him to where if Canelo Alvarez insists on campaigning as a super middleweight, I'm not leaving him much of a choice but to fight me, as I've taken out all of the other competition. You know, when Canelo went up to 175 for that Kovalev fight, me, you, and everybody knew that he wasn't going to stay up there. He wasn't going to campaign as a light heavyweight thereafter. He was going to throw that belt in the air immediately after he won it and return to the lower weights. Now, if Dmitry Bivol insists on pursuing this guy, pursuing this kind of a fight, that's what he's got to do, because simply descending to the super middleweight division, that's not going to get you that fight. There's no guarantees that if you go down there, you get that fight. But you take out the competition, you narrow his pool of options whilst making a name for yourself, then maybe you've got a shot. That at minimum, you insist on going down there, this could help you get closer to the Canelo Alvarez fight, as he's not simply going to pick you for the kindness of his own heart.